This is Weaponeer, and normally I like to talk about these. Well, I've been getting so many comments and questions that I thought I better cover this. That way I can at least point them to this video. As you notice, my gloves are modified. I actually sew these myself. I don't have a wife or a slave to do it for me. And ever since I got rid of the wife, I've been able to go ahead and have things like this. So it's much more worthwhile for me to sew it. So here's the reason I sew my gloves up like this. Number one, regular gloves, if I was to go ahead and put a regular glove on, what happens is you end up with it don't fit and stuff like that, and flopping gloves don't work. 4 years ago, I went ahead and I lost part of my left hand. And these right here, the only joint here is here and here. Everything else has been removed. The only joint here is here and here, and not much of one. And they bend there, but not very well. I went from 150 pounds of grip to about 7 pounds of grip. So not real great grip. It was a traumatic amputation, and the story is, it was late at night. We had the fog roll in, and the fog was on the ground, and I had nice decent lighting outside. I didn't have a garage, but I had checked the fluids in the vehicle because I was going to a reunion. It was like Thursday or something like that, and I was going to a reunion on Saturday or something, and Thursday night. So I thought I'd just go ahead and get some things done, and so I went ahead and I started the vehicle, let it run, and I came back inside, and after a few minutes, after the vehicle was warmed up, I went outside. The hood was already up, and I had to check fluid levels, the ones that like your transmission that you check when it's running. And I had leaned over the vehicle. I did not notice that the grass was so wet. I didn't have any problem walking around the vehicle or anything like that. So when I leaned over the vehicle, I was basically on my toes just to get to the dipstick, and my feet slipped out from under me. When my feet went out, your face drops, and your face is aiming right towards the red hot, not red hot, but the hot radiator. And I didn't think a face plant of a radiator would be a good idea, so I put my hands out. Well, right hand hit the fender, left hand went into the serpentine belt pulley, and I don't recommend that. What had happened was my other hand went in, and it caught the little finger, and it went into the pulley, and when the little finger goes, well, the other ones kind of follow. So my hand went into the pulley. It was a combination of crush, cut, and tear, because I was at my limit of extension, and the rest of it just kind of pulled into it. So these two fingers right here are a little longer because they couldn't pull me in any further, but there's a lot of internal damage on these two, and these two, there's nothing. There's bone, but that's about it. So this was after I left the military. This was 4 years ago. I left the military in 2000. So this was at night, and I absolutely hate hospitals. I've had 10 operations, so I absolutely hate hospitals. The reason I've had 10 operations was back in the 90s, I went ahead, early 90s, like 91, just after the Gulf War. I was in a gasoline fire and burned my severe 3rd degree, and muscle damage and everything else, lower left leg, and I got had sunburns on right leg, right upper leg, and left arm, and things like that. So I went ahead and I had to have skin grafts done on the leg. The other ones, they just kind of left. I have skin grafts over the front of the top of my right foot too, and I only have part of a right foot as well because of all that. But let's see here. Okay, so because of all the skin grafts and stuff like that, I'm not too fond of hospitals. If you've ever had a skin graft, you know how immensely painful skin grafts are. It's like the worst thing you can possibly do. And the problem is I'm immune to morphine. And because I'm immune to morphine and everything above that, it just blows their mind. They go ahead and they give me a shot of morphine that's enough to go ahead and drop a horse, and my body can't metabolize that into anything that does anything at all. It's like shooting water into my veins. So they go ahead and, normally people would, go right to sleep, and for me, it hits me and it doesn't do anything good for me, and it just doesn't make me feel better. Actually, it makes me feel a bit worse, kind of like a little nauseous or something. So they went ahead and they gave me something that is a little bit more powerful, and it still never worked. So I basically had all the skin graft operations with no painkillers, other than the initial operation, which was all spinal tap. And that's the only way I have operations is spinal. I had the other, a general once, and I had a hard time breathing afterwards, so I don't do general. So, went in with the hand. Well, actually, I didn't go right in with the hand. I went ahead, and since it was late at night, and I hate hospitals, no blading because of crush injury, there was nothing left. Trust me, there was absolutely nothing left. After it goes through a blade, a belt that thick or that wide with little serrations in it, and there's not even hamburger left. I mean, it takes everything, and there's just nothing. So there was obviously no chance of having anything reattached. There was nothing to reattach. So I went ahead and I pulled out one of my first aid kits and went ahead and did all the bandages and all that type of stuff. There was no bleeding or anything like that. And I decided, okay, I'll go tomorrow. So I went ahead and went to sleep with my hand bandaged. And because that's how much I hate hospitals and ERs. So I went ahead and got up in the morning and I was like, I know I got to go in. Because I had the reunion. I didn't want to miss that damn reunion. It's only every 5 years. Didn't want to miss it. So I went ahead, went into the ER. They went ahead and they said, well, if we go ahead and do it, we'll take off even more. And I, at that point, I was like, hey, there's not a whole lot more you could take off. So they went ahead and they said, oh, we got to go ahead and we'll send you to the next biggest hospital, another 20 minutes away. So, but when they did that, they went ahead and they gave me a shot of morphine. Before I can go ahead and say, don't. So they gave me the shot of morphine, which absolutely does nothing for me, and that's when I went ahead and I said, thank you very much, because as soon as they gave me the shot of morphine, I couldn't drive myself to the other hospital. I had to go by ambulance, which was more expensive, and I didn't have insurance. So they went ahead and took me by ambulance to the other hospital, and since I had told them that it didn't do, the morphine didn't do anything, they went ahead and they gave me something 10 times more powerful than morphine, and it was just one of those deals that they were giving it to me every 10 minutes, and they were just astonished that it didn't do shit for me, and just kept on telling them, it doesn't do anything, don't even bother giving it to me. Every 10 minutes, they figured it's got to start working one of these times. So every 10 minutes for the 20 minutes drive there, they doing injections and shit, and get to the hospital. They went ahead and did an emergency surgery on my hand. So I went ahead and said, okay, if you're going to do it, you're not going to go ahead and do it with general, you're going to do it with a local, and because I want to drive home, and they thought I was insane. So I went ahead and had the local while I was awake. They went ahead and they strapped me down, literally, feet, knees, waist, chest, seatbelts. And then they tied down the arm, and it's like, damn, guys. And then they put a sheet there so I couldn't see, but I could feel everything. It just didn't hurt. I did the local right through the armpit, which sucks. I've done the spine deal. Spine one don't bother me at all, but through there, that one sucked. The nail's like, well, the needle is like a 10-penny nail, but longer, and it's really nasty. So I went ahead, had that done. They went ahead and did the hand. When they did the hand, they went ahead and they sewed it up, and in order to preserve any length, they literally went ahead and pulled all the tissue they possibly could, and it was still open. Yeah, that's how tight it was. It was still open, and nerves were hanging out and stuff like that. And after all the stitches and everything, so they went ahead and they bandaged up my arm. And of course, you know, when it's got an opening right there, it'll continue to seep and bleed. So, you know, they had these two fingers taken out. These two fingers weren't, because there wasn't much to stick out, and they had it all bandaged. And they went ahead and they said, "Okay, you're out of the surgery now. We'll put you in the room." And I said, Now they asked me if I wanted some painkillers, and I said, "What type?" And they said, "Oxycodone." And I said, "Oxycodone, fine. Just as long as it's not hydrocodone. I'm allergic to hydrocodone." So they went ahead and they gave me 2 pills. I said, "I'll only take one of the 2." So I took the one and immediately started projectile vomiting. They had gave me the hydrocodone, the one I'm allergic to. If I had to take both of them, I probably would have went into shock. I got to talk quick because I'm running out of time. So we went ahead and went through that whole ordeal. After I was completely empty, there was no more need to vomit anymore. So I went ahead and I said, "Well, you guys got me here. Give me to the other hospital." So they went ahead and they, you know, when you demand it, they have to do it. So they went ahead and they sent me by taxi to the other hospital. And I didn't even walk in the hospital. I just walked into the parking lot, got in my vehicle, and drove home. Next morning, I went ahead and I got up and I headed to the reunion with my face all swollen and arms swollen and everything else. And I looked like I gained 40 pounds, and everybody was staring at me. And I said, "Hey, I just had an operation just a few hours ago." You know, so they think I gained about 40 pounds. So with all that kind of bullshit, I don't particularly like hospitals. And when I went ahead and went in for, like I said, I was in a fire in 2001. I had all the grafts redone, and redoing grafts sucks even more. Even then, I went ahead and I had the, it's a major operation, get grafting, because they had to pull the skin from one place and put it on the other place, and so you got double the size, and it was pretty good size anyway. So they went ahead and do the skin grafting. You go ahead and you get a room, and you wait till morning. And in the morning, I went ahead and I got out and I went home. Normally, you stay in bed in the hospital for 2 weeks minimum, and they wanted 3 weeks minimum when I went home. I went ahead and I had an appendectomy. I walked into the hospital. I said, "I have appendix going." They went ahead and they did an appendectomy, and I went home the next 12 hours or less. So that's pretty common with me. I went ahead and I went in with the appendectomy. They were going ahead and feeding me with an IV, and they were feeding me with an IV like a garden hose, so I had to pee every 5-10 minutes. And because I had, they just opened me up the old-fashioned way, and so I had to get up out of bed to go in order to pee. I was pissed off because they kept on going with the water, and I didn't want to be getting up every 10 minutes. So I said, "Get me the hell out of here." So I had operation at like 8 o'clock at night, and by 9 o'clock the next morning, I was demanding to be let go, and by 10, I drove myself home. So as you can tell, I don't like hospitals too much. I've been in them far too often. Any comments or questions, leave them below. I'm out of time. So maybe this will get some of the, answer some of the questions as to what happened to my hand. It was not military related. My back injury is military related. My hearing is military related. I have to wear 2 hearing aids. So there's other other military related things, but the hand is not one of them, and neither was the burn injury. So any comments or questions, leave it below, and that'll get rid of that. Thank you very much. Bye.